It is said that smell is the most powerful of the five senses. It can bring back memories, even from childhood. The smell I smelled when I opened the mailbox was not from my childhood, but I recognized it immediately. It brought back memories and ruined my mood. It was Christian Dior Dune. It has been my wife's favorite scent for most of our marriage. I knew why I felt it. She must have sent me an invitation to her upcoming wedding. What a bitch. As if I want to go and see her united in marriage with her lover. I have already seen her unite with him in our marital bed, which is why she is now my ex-wife. I was flipping through my mail, putting bills and promotional materials aside, until I saw this. Of course, it was an elegant envelope with my name and address written in calligraphy in deep purple ink, my wife's favorite color. "The color of royalty," she said when someone asked her. Royalty, right? She was no closer to royalty than my dog. Am I bitter? Hell yes. She cheated on me with my old enemy. I wouldn't even open the invitation if I didn't want to know when the wedding was so I could be convenient out of town. July 23 at 15:00, I'm sure I can find somewhere else to be. I looked at the name of the place where the ceremony was to take place. I couldn't believe that she was actually going to get remarried in a church, and not just any church, but the most prestigious and pompous church in the city. How could she even think about getting married in a church after she cheated on me? Oh, but her new husband-to-be was rich, so I guess only the best for her. I solemnly threw the invitation into the trash bin. I was in a great mood before I came home. Now my mood has worsened. It was a good day at work. One of the new office employees, Sabrina, stopped by my office, and we flirted a little. At least I hope she was flirting and not just being polite. The last year and a half have been difficult, but her attention has really boosted my self-esteem and uplifted my spirit. I thought about my ex-wife. We were together for 26 years, 23 of them married. I grabbed a beer from the refrigerator, turned on the TV, and plopped down on the couch. I'm not sure how long I sat there, but it must have been a long time. When I went to take the last sip from the bottle, the beer was already warm. I looked at the bottle and was thinking about getting another one when the phone rang. It was my daughter, Shayna. "Hello, little bear," I said. "Hi, Dad. How are you?" Well, I was doing great until I came home and picked up the mail. "So you also received an invitation today," she stated. "Yes, can you believe it?" "Sorry, Dad. I told her that I shouldn't send you an invitation, but she insisted, saying, he has to handle it. He may come to a wedding, if for nothing else, to see his daughter as a bridesmaid." "Well, I'm not going to go. I've already thrown the invitation in the trash where it belongs." "Dad, could you reconsider your decision?" "Honey, I'm planning to be out of town this weekend," I stated. "Dad, I really want you to be there. I will need your support. You know, I don't really want to be at the wedding, but she made me feel guilty. She wanted me to be a witness, but I told her, no way. Shayna, you don't need my support. Brent will be there to support you." "Dad, what will you do next year when Brent and I get married? Are you avoiding this wedding too?" "Of course not, little bear. I can't wait to walk you down the aisle and get you married." "So you still have to be in the same church with them next year. Can't you be a better person and come to this wedding?" "I don't think I'm any better, honey," I told her. "Well, think about it, Dad. I really want you there with me." "I'll think about it," I told her. "I really should have thought about this. I don't think I can be better and leave this behind. Jill and I were to be married for life. I think she wanted to exchange the old model for a new one. As I sat and thought, I decided to try something that I have done many times throughout my life. When I was young, I was taught to write down my problems. It helps. Try to deal with each problem separately and not with the whole problem at once. As I was writing, I decided that perhaps the fact that Ron had been my rival since elementary school made the betrayal even worse. I knew I couldn't tell him, face to face, how I felt, so I decided to write this. I didn't intend to give him this letter, but it helped me release the burden. Ron. Well, I think the better man won. Jill chose to be with you for life. We competed from elementary school. You truly were my worst enemy. Even in high school, we competed. Jill was the one we fought for, but she chose someone else. Later, when you were in college, she chose me. But I guess even after all these years, you couldn't get over the fact that Jill married me. It would seem that you should have already experienced this, but no, you had to pursue her, simply because she was mine. Of course, I'm angry at you, but I'm really angry at my loving wife, or rather my ex-wife. The fact that she gave in to your advances showed me that even after 26 years, I didn't really know her. When we started dating, we told each other all our hopes, dreams, and even fears for hours on end. Towards the end of our marriage, we didn't talk much. Well, I didn't say much, she said everything. And that's it. I think I should have listened more. Maybe I would have heard the alarm bells warning me that she was leaving. I keep thinking about all the things I once loved about Jill. Now you get to experience everything that makes her who she is. You will wake up next to her and see her. You will be the only one who will ever see her like this without makeup, with morning disheveled hair and morning breath. She will immediately go to the bathroom to comb her hair and brush her teeth and apply layers of makeup. You might want to get to the bathroom first, otherwise you'll have to wait an hour. After writing these words, I put the pages down and decided to go to a bar to take my mind off my problems. I'm a little embarrassed, but I had to call an Uber to get home because I was too drunk to drive. The next day was Saturday, so I slept with a hangover. I actually didn't get out of bed until 2 p.m. I just couldn't find a reason to get up earlier. The smell of my body sweating from alcohol finally made me get up, if only to take a shower and get something to eat. I felt better after the shower, so I decided to grab a burger at the pub. I still had to call Uber to pick up the car. The burger helped, as did a little bit of whatever bit me. The next week, I was still depressed. Sabrina noticed and asked what happened. I told her, trouble with my ex. She didn't work there when all my problems started, so she didn't know the whole story. Kurt, she said, let's go have dinner after work. I hate to see you so gloomy. I don't want my bad mood to affect such a happy person, I told her. Nonsense, maybe I'm just what you need to get out of your depression. Again, was it her flirting, or was it completely innocent? I had been out of the game for so long that I couldn't be sure of anything. Well, dinner was pleasant. We sat and talked. She asked me about what happened with Jill. She could tell from the emotional responses I gave that I still had a lot of hatred for my ex and her lover. I apologized for talking about my problems and asked her about her relationship. She told me about her marriage to a drunk and then about a long-term relationship of 6 years with a guy who decided he never wanted to get married. She struggled with it. Did he love her? Did he want to remain free? She wanted to have children, but could not imagine them without marriage. She needed confidence that he would be with her for a long time. During dinner, we talked, taking turns discussing a variety of topics. It was obvious to me that we had a lot in common: politics, religion, family values, vacations, and the future. At the end of our dinner, we walked out to the parking lot. Then, without warning, she came up to me and hugged me. I was stunned and thought, who is this young woman who can take such care of me? As she walked to her car, I just looked at her. She must be at least 10 years younger than me. A short, petite Latina who always seemed to be smiling. I really wanted to know more about her story. We will have to meet again soon. Sabrina definitely changed my mood. On the way home, I smiled and sang along to the radio to some country song I had heard many times before. When I walked into my living room, I saw a letter that I had started to write. My smile disappeared, but my mood was definitely better than when I started writing the letter. The caring young woman who tried to cheer me up really helped me look at life with a new perspective. I sat down and took the paper, thinking about my ex-wife. Our relationship wasn't perfect, no one's is, just ask any couple who's been married for a while. There are things your partner does that, if you focus on them, will drive you crazy. You learn to ignore these things, or at least learn to live with them. It made me remember dinner with Sabrina. I compared Sabrina to Jill. There was something different. Then it dawned on me. I realized what was different. It was the clink, clink, clink of Jill's fork on the plate. My ex had a habit of touching her plate with her fork 3 times before taking a bite of food. I asked her about this once. She didn't even realize she was doing it. When she thought for a while, she came up with a reason why she was doing this. To make sure all the food is securely on the fork so it doesn't spill on your blouse. I think it's a good reason, and I've learned to live with it. I even learned to ignore it. One thing I know for sure is that I won't miss eating with her. I took a pen and paper and started writing again. When we first got married, I thought it was cute how she always touched her plate with her fork 3 times before eating each bite of food. But I admit, by the end it really annoyed me, hearing this ringing, ringing, ringing throughout the entire meal. Even when we were dining out, it was there. Ringing, ringing, ringing. The next week at work, Sabrina made it clear that she enjoyed the time we spent together. Out of politeness, I said, "Me too. We need to do this again." "When?" she asked. This surprised me a little. How about Friday? Unless you already have a date, of course." "No, I'm free for you," she said, smiling. Again, this flirting, or it was just an innocent remark. That night, when I entered my apartment, I was whistling a tune. I saw the letter on the coffee table and thought to myself, not today, I don't even want to think about my ex. Friday came, and we found ourselves together again, enjoying dinner. I was nervous. It was Friday night, and I was having dinner with a beautiful woman, which is what we had actually planned. I think it was a date. I hadn't been on a date in so long that I didn't know what to expect or what was expected of me. I knew for sure that this woman in front of me was pleasant to talk to and also pleasant to look at. And I knew that she was interested in learning more about me. We finished dinner and just drove around in the car. I know I was nervous, and maybe she was too, but when there was silence in the car, neither of us felt the need to fill it with useless chatter. I appreciated that she felt comfortable just sitting in the car with me while I drove. At the end of the evening, I dropped her off at her condominium. We talked for a while, and then she went inside. When I walked into my apartment and saw the letter still sitting on the coffee table, I just grinned to myself. A week passed, and on Saturday afternoon, Shayna called me again and asked, "Dad, have you RSVP'd to Mom?" "No, honey. I told you I threw the invitation in the trash where it belongs." "Dad, will you go for me?" "Why is it so important to you that I go, Shayna? You think I want to see that asshole grinning at me when he marries your mom?" "Dad, I know you don't get along with him, and I understand that, but if you don't go, it will only make him more confident that he has won." "Honey, I don't know. I don't think your mother really wants me there. I think he probably insisted on sending me an invitation." "Dad, please think about it." "I'll think about it, dear, but don't get your hopes up." We ended the conversation, and I was a little depressed. Why can't Shayna understand how I feel? I needed to cheer myself up, so I decided to call Sabrina. "Hi, Sabrina. How are you?" "I was just thinking about you. I wonder if you have plans for today," she asked. "Well, I'm glad you think about me. I don't have any plans. Do you have something in mind?" "I want to arrange a trip. Are you ready for this?" "Where?" I asked. "Let's just get in my car and see where it takes us." "Okay, I'm all yours." As soon as I said it, I hoped she wouldn't take it too seriously. I didn't want to scare her into thinking I was moving too fast. We drove through the countryside, enjoying the wonders of the world around us. We drove along high mountain roads where the views were breathtaking. We stopped at a scenic viewpoint and went to see the best view. The wind was a little cold, so I hugged her to share the warmth. She looked at me, and I looked into her eyes and kissed her. This was the first time we kissed. I was careful. I didn't want to scare this wonderful woman, and it had also been almost 3 decades since I had kissed anyone other than my ex. She smiled and hugged me back, which was a good sign. We walked hand in hand. Over the past few weeks, we have talked about our past relationships. She came out deputy already in his early 20s for a drunk who became aggressive. "Fortunately," she said, "I realized early on that he wouldn't stop drinking, So I consciously decided not to have children with him. I didn't want to raise them with an aggressive drunk as a father. We discussed my divorce again. She couldn't believe that after all these years together, my ex decided I wasn't good enough or rich enough. We walked, and I talked about my daughter. When I mentioned she was 22, she said, "Oh, she's 10 years younger than me." Sabrina is 32 years old, I thought. What the hell am I doing? I'm 48 years old, 16 years older than her. So I asked her, "Sabrina, I don't know if you realize this, but I'm 48 years old. Why do you want to hang out with an old guy like me?" She looked at me with a death glare. Then she said, "Kurt, if you don't understand that you like me and that your age doesn't matter to me, then maybe I don't know you at all. Perhaps you should find someone who is old enough so that I don't waste my time or yours." I looked at her. She walked away a little. "I ruined everything," I said to myself, sitting down on a nearby stone bench. "Why am I so stupid? I'm doing well with someone who makes me happy, and I say something to ruin it." I looked at her. Her back was turned to me, but I could tell she was crying. I stood up and walked over to her, tentatively placing my hands on her shoulders and pressing myself against her back. "I'm sorry. I'm an idiot. I just can't believe a beautiful woman wants to spend time with me. I'm not handsome, far from it. I'm hardly average." She turned her head slightly, and I saw that tears were still streaming down her face. "Sabrina, I know it's still early in our relationship, but I'm starting to have strong feelings for you. I think I was just trying to protect my heart from further disappointment." She turned to me. "Do you think I'm not scared? My ex-husband was a violent drunk. He wasn't like that before the wedding, at least I didn't see it. Then I was in a relationship with a guy who didn't want to get married. I think you're different, and I thought we had something special. I'm not looking for casual one-night stands. A relationship with someone I like and care about is what I was looking for. I thought I found this guy, but if all you can think about is our age difference, then maybe we shouldn't even be friends." I looked at her. The little makeup she wore was smudged, but she was the most beautiful woman in the world to me. I hugged her gently, pulling her to my chest. Then, after a light hug, I pulled away a little, and then I kissed her again, but this time passionately, with all my soul. Soon she kissed back, and we stood there kissing under the sun. We must have stood there for quite some time, because when we finally stopped kissing, I noticed the storm clouds were approaching. I looked at Sabrina and said, "Those clouds look dangerous. We'd better get back. In fact, we're better off taking the highway rather than the scenic route." She looked at me and said, "Can I interest you in a home-cooked, authentic Mexican dinner when we get back?" "Sounds great, but only if you let me help." "Well, I've never had a man in the kitchen, but if you're willing, I'm willing to take the risk." I was glad and a little surprised that neither of her two previous partners helped her in the kitchen. Was this a cultural thing, I thought. On the way back, I noticed one more thing that distinguished Sabrina from Jill. It was something good, and it made me smile. I should have added this to my letter to the asshole. Dinner was great, and although she was probably a little uncomfortable with my presence in the kitchen, we were soon cooking like a well-oiled machine. To say the food was delicious would be an understatement. Authentic was definitely better than the so-called authentic food you buy at the store or even in restaurants. She said the recipes and preparation have been passed down from grandmother to granddaughter for generations. This surprised me. I could not remember anything that my ancestors would have passed on, except my genes, of course. We ended the evening on the couch with kisses and hugs. It was so nice to feel a woman's body so close to mine. We didn't go any further than that. I think we were both still cautious, and I definitely didn't want to rush things. I wanted our relationship to develop. That night when I got home, I went straight to the letter. When I started writing, I wasn't sure I would send it. I just needed to let go of the burden. Now I was still not sure, but I was leaning towards sending. Writing was therapeutic, and I was able to release some anger, so I kept it on my coffee table to jot down my thoughts whenever I had something I wanted to say. Today I had something to say. remembering when we first got married, young and in love. We have just started our life together, as well as our new careers, so money was a little tight. Our honeymoon wasn't to an exotic location, but rather a trip to the Poconos in Pennsylvania. We took turns driving for 6 hours. When you first get married, you don't let little things bother you. However, this was the first time I noticed that Jill didn't like using cruise control. This wouldn't be a big problem if it weren't for the fact that it fluctuated 2-3 mph every 20-30 seconds. I even felt a little sick. After we stopped for lunch, I told Jill I would drive the rest of the way. So, from then on, I drove the car on long trips. I put the letter aside. Riding with Sabrina showed me that long trips won't be a problem for me in the future. I needed to write something else down to free myself from the burden. When Jill and I got married, it was great. I needed to express this to the asshole. Our honeymoon was amazing, literally no holds barred. At the beginning of our marriage, there was nothing we didn't try together, every position imaginable. Obviously, we all get older and struggle with age. Gravity also takes its toll. Despite all this, I hope to be with her for a long time. You, however, will most likely live all these 30-plus years with her. Yes, the best man won. Enjoy your prize. Sincerely, your opponent, Kurt Davidson. I finished the letter. I could write pages about the little things that annoyed me, the things I've learned to live with. However, I'm done looking back and am ready to look to the future with Sabrina. Early in the morning, I called Sabrina. She replied, "Well, hello? Do you miss me already?" "Yes, I miss you," I said with a smile on my face. "I was wondering if you had any plans for the long 4th of July weekend. It was in 2 weeks, but I wanted to do something special." "No, what are you planning?" "Well, I don't want to seem like I'm rushing our relationship, but would you like to go away for a few days? I thought we could go to Virginia Beach." Then, not wanting to put pressure on her, I quickly added, "We can take 2 hotel rooms. I don't want you to be uncomfortable." She responded in a way that surprised me and showed that she cared. "I won't be uncomfortable, but I'm worried that you might not be ready. Your divorce still seems painful to you." "Oh, I'm ready," I said, and not wanting to sound like a horny person, I added, "I know I've been depressed for a while. As you know, I just received an invitation to my ex-wife's wedding. This caused a lot of resentment that I still carried within me. Luckily, you changed that. I thought, after yesterday, that you might be ready to move on," she suggested. "Yesterday was wonderful. In recent weeks, I have been afraid that I might be moving too fast. It's been many years, and I don't take relationships lightly." "Me too, Kurt. However, I feel very comfortable with you, and I know that you are a good person." Then, feeling brave, I said, "Well, I'm good even when I'm bad," I said half-jokingly, with a lustful tone. She laughed. "I'll have to keep an eye on you then." I really enjoyed this exchange. This showed me that we had moved past the me on my best behavior stage in our relationship. We agreed to meet for lunch, and I hung up with a huge smile on my face. I immediately went online and booked 1 room with 2 double beds. The next week, Shayna called again. "Dad, Mom says you're not going to her wedding. She said she hasn't received your confirmation yet. Dad, I really want you to go for me." "Shayna, honey, why should I go there? This is not your wedding. I want to dance with my father." "Ugh, how do I get out of this without disappointing my daughter?" "Darling, I can dance with you next year when you get married." "Why should you come for a few hours?" she whined. "I feel like everyone will look at me with pity. Here's the ex-husband she left to marry this guy. I can't believe he's here." "Oh, Dad, they wouldn't." "I think they would, darling." "Then bring a companion with you. Show them that you have moved on too." "We'll see," I replied. "Dad, the wedding is in a month. Please," she begged. "Let's see. That's the best I can say right now." I changed the subject, and we talked about other things in her life. She was certainly busy burning the candle at both ends. Later that week, Sabrina came over with Chinese food. She said, "Surprise, I thought I'd spend the evening with my favorite guy. Of course, I invited her inside. She placed the food on the table and asked, "Do you want to eat from containers or should we use plates?" I liked it. The girl who isn't afraid to eat from takeout containers. However, not wanting to sound uncultured, I said, "I'm sure I have at least 2 clean plates around here somewhere. Let's sit at the table to eat." "I don't care," she said. I got out the plates and cutlery, and we sat down to eat and talk. While we were eating, she took off her shoes and started rubbing her foot on my leg. I looked at her and said, "Looks like Kung Pao chicken isn't the only thing that's hot today." She just looked at me with a fake innocent expression and said, "I don't know what you're talking about." I just smiled as she continued to rub my leg with her foot. After dinner, we went into the living room and sat on the sofa. We focused on each other as we started kissing. We were hot and heavy, and my hand was on her breast through her blouse. She pulled away and said, "I need to go to the bathroom, but don't forget where we were staying." Wow, what a woman. She left for a while, but while she was gone, I went to the kitchen. I was about to pour us a glass of wine when I asked, "White or red?" "I would prefer a bottle of beer," was her answer. Wow, what a woman. I grabbed a couple of beers and headed back to the living room. When I turned the corner, I stopped. She carefully read my letter to the asshole. She looked at me with a guilty look and said, "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have just started reading your stuff. Sorry, I'm terribly embarrassed." How could I be angry at that beautiful face when it was obvious that she was truly ashamed? Plus, she felt comfortable enough around me to take it in the first place. It had been lying on the table all this time. Let me explain. "No need," she said. "I shouldn't have been so nosy." "Sabrina, it's okay that you read it. I wrote this to free myself from a burden. This is written for the asshole who will marry my ex-wife. I started writing it when I received the invitation. It's cheaper than therapy. I just think about things from time to time and add them to the letter. I probably won't send it, but it helps me think I'm writing it to him." "I can see it," she said. "You seem to be working through pain. What you wrote was interesting." I blushed, remembering that my message had included a description of our sex life. Yeah, I was just remembering life with my ex. I was probably a little harsh at the end. "Kurt, these are your feelings, and if it helps you cope, then what's the harm?" Wow, what a woman. "Sabrina, you are just what the doctor ordered." I sat down next to her, took the letter from her hand, placed it back on the coffee table, and kissed her passionately. It didn't take long before my hand returned to where we left off. I pulled away from her lips and looked at her. "What, are you upset that I removed your obstacle?" I smiled and said, "Where are we staying?" We spent the rest of the evening on the couch in various forms of undress. In preparation for our long weekend, we met almost every night or talked on the phone. We learned more and more about each other. On the Thursday before the holiday weekend, I received a call from Shay. Us. "Dad, I'm calling to try again. Will you go to the wedding?" I started to lose my patience, even though it was my daughter. "Shayna," I asked, "is this mom asking you to do this?" "No, Dad, to be honest, I think she would rather not want you to come. She doesn't want a scandal, but Ron continues to insist." "Why does she think I'll cause a scandal?" I objected. "Because he was your rival since school," she explained. "So why is it so important to you that I go? Do you want me to make a scene?" I reproached. "No, Dad, I want you to show Mom and Ron that you are better. I think it will be good for you, maybe make you deal with it and move on." My daughter wanted me to move on. I've already moved. My relationship with Sabrina had already gotten to the point where we were exclusive and committed to each other. "Honey, I'm fine. I've already moved on. Let that asshole deal with her and her problems." "Yeah, it sounds like you've really moved on," she said sarcastically. "Believe me, honey, I really moved. Of course, there is still resentment, and I would not shed a tear if he died tomorrow, but I have moved on." "Sorry, Dad, I didn't mean to upset you." I think I better hang up before I say something that hurts your feelings. Sorry, Dad. We'll talk next week. When Sabrina called later that night, she immediately knew something was wrong. It's nothing. My daughter called and insisted that I go to my ex-wife's wedding. I don't understand why she's so insistent on this, I said irritably. Can we discuss this over the weekend when you've calmed down? She asked. Sorry, I didn't mean to take it out on you. It's okay, Kurt. We'll figure this out together. We talked a little more and agreed that I would pick her up in the morning. The next morning, when she walked out of her condominium, I was stunned. Sabrina wore a yellow floral dress with spaghetti straps that perfectly accentuated her petite figure and olive complexion. I got horny just looking at her. She was carrying a small bag of clothes that I thought could only fit a few small outfits. I guess she didn't think she needed a lot of clothes for 3 days. She opened the car door, put her bag in the back seat, and sat forward. Sorry, I said. I would go out and open the door for you, but I'm afraid I won't be able to get up without being embarrassed. She smiled and said, You say such sweet things. Wow, what a woman. I drove us to a hotel on the beach, and we talked the whole way. We managed to check into the hotel early and went to our room. The view was amazing. I couldn't tell what we ate. My eyes and thoughts were completely occupied with her. Kurt, she said, interrupting my thoughts. I looked into her eyes. Yes? Can I propose without upsetting you? I thought for a moment and said, I can't promise I won't be upset, but I'll try. Thank you, Kurt. You know I care about you very much. Oh, I thought. What's next? Kurt, I would like to go with you to your ex-wife's wedding. I want to meet your daughter, show all the guests my man, and finally thank Jill for making you available to me, she said with a grin. To say that I was stunned is an understatement. I looked at her and a huge smile spread across my face. Oh God, I thought. It will be perfect. I can hold my head high with this woman on my shoulder. From your smile, I take it that this is a yes, she asked. You will make me the proudest man at the wedding, I said. We may have to leave the reception early to bring the focus back to the bride and groom. This night was amazing. It was both loving and wild. We both hadn't been intimate for a long time, so we were a little impatient. I think I did well for a man my age with limited experience with different women. When you're with someone as long as I was, you fall into a routine that works for both of you. When you start with another woman, it's a little awkward. They don't react or expect what your ex does. I'm sure she felt the same way about what I did and how I reacted. In my opinion, we did well. We soon learned to read each other and found our rhythm. This morning, I woke up next to this wonderful woman, and she was like a vision. Sure, her hair was messy, but she still looked amazing. I expected her to go straight to the bathroom to begin her morning ritual, but she didn't. She turned to me, ran her fingers through her hair, and then laid her head on my chest, hugging me. It was so pleasant and natural. I just lay there and enjoyed it. Then I kissed the top of her head, and she snuggled closer to me. Finally, I got up, brushed my teeth, and emptied my bladder. When I came out of the bathroom, she was still lying on the bed. I wanted to take a photo, but I'm sure I won't need one to remember this vision. I will remember this all my life. She noticed that I was standing and looking at her and covered my face with a pillow. Then I said something I don't think I ever said to my ex-wife. Why do you hide such beauty behind your pillow? She rolled over and buried her face in the pillow. Her naked back was completely visible. Then I said, That's a nice ass there. She moved sloughed with her ass, and I heard muffled laughter from under the pillows. I quickly returned to the bed and lay down next to her, stroking her back and buttocks. She raised her head and kissed me on the lips. What, are you upset that I removed your obstacle? I smiled and said, So where are we? We spent the rest of the morning enjoying each other and our surroundings. When we finally got up, it was already past 10. She went to the bathroom and closed the door. I called out, Do you want me to make a dinner reservation? Dinner, she answered. I want breakfast. Give me some time and I'll be ready. I was shocked to say the least. It would have taken Jill an hour. 5 minutes later, Sabrina came out of the bathroom with her hair combed and light makeup. She truly was a striking beauty. She walked over to her things and selected a few outfits, placing them on the bed. Then she put on her panties. I saw that beautiful ass again. I said, "This is a wonderful view." She turned to me and said, "I'm glad you like it. She's been with me all my life." I laughed. She is so quick with perfect remarks. We spent the day walking along the beach, visiting shops, enjoying local restaurants and each other's company. By the end of the weekend, we were so comfortable with each other, both emotionally and physically, that we didn't even watch the fireworks. We created our own. Our relationship has reached an important stage. We were a couple. We both knew it was serious and were looking forward to our future together. The next week, my daughter called again. "Dad, the wedding is in 15 days. I beg you to be a better person and agree to go." I was a little hesitant, making my daughter nervous on the other end. Then I said, "Okay, but on one condition." "Great, which?" "I will have a +1 that you will have to meet and accept because she will probably become your stepmother." "What?" "Yes, I think I'm in love." "How long have you been dating?" "Only a little, but we both care about each other a lot," I announced. "I can't wait to meet her," she said. "I knew you would find someone." The wedding day has arrived. I picked up Sabrina from her condominium. She looked wonderful. She wore a conservative yet sexy dress that accentuated her every line and enhanced her natural beauty. Her eyes were lightly cold, making her deep brown eyes especially expressive. It was hard not to look at them. I took us to church, and we decided to sit closer to the exit. Still, I didn't want to overshadow the bride on her special day. 3 days before the wedding, I sent a letter to Ron. Yes, writing it was therapeutic for me, and I probably shouldn't have sent it, but it was still my competition. We were sitting on the bench, and he must have heard me come. I saw him looking around, looking for me. We made eye contact, and he walked towards me, I'm sure to show off. As he came closer, he saw my companion and almost tripped. Sabrina was so amazing that he knew the best person actually won. Later, as he stood in front, ready to get married, there was an expression on his face, "Am I wrong?" The following year, Shayna got married, and I walked her down the aisle, a proud father. Jill was there too, of course, but not Ron. They were in the process of getting a divorce. They didn't even last a year. I think the daily routine caught up with them, and the romance went away. He must have realized that 30 or more years with this woman was not what he expected. The excitement is in the competition. Once you have a trophy, it just sits there and collects dust. Jill took it hard and even told me that she had made a mistake by giving up a quarter of a century of love and care for an illusion. He just kept finding fault with everything. Nothing was right or good enough. He never seemed to be satisfied. "Kurt, forgive me. Is there a way I can make amends and start over?" Obviously, she didn't hear, and Shayna didn't tell her that Sabrina and I were getting married next month. I didn't send her an invitation. I no longer had the need to be vindictive. Did I feel sorry for her? No, she made her choice, and she will have to live with it. Just because I added a little dirt to her bed doesn't mean she didn't deserve it. Subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think, click to the next one. Click to the next one. Click to